Welcome to An Athletic Life, the show for former college athletes who want to feel, look, and live like an athlete again in real life. I'm Justin Andrade, founder of the Athlete Reboot System, and each week we break down simple, sustainable plays for training, nutrition, and mindset that actually fit careers, families, and real world responsibilities. No crazy workouts, no crash diets, just proven systems and real stories to help you rebuild a body and life you're proud of again. Let's get into it. Most people talk about what they started this year, new habits, new goals, new routines, new plans. But honestly, the biggest changes in my life this year didn't come from what I added, they came from what I stopped doing. And I don't think we talk about that enough because starting things feels exciting, feels like something that is new, something like that shiny object that we've been looking forward to. And stopping things requires honesty and transparency and reflecting on where we are actually at truly at the moment. This year forced me to get very clear on what was actually helping me move forward and just what was actually productive for me. So, in this episode, I want to walk through a few things that I intentionally stopped doing this year and why those decisions ended up mattering more than any new habit that I picked up. And as you listen, I don't want you thinking about what you need to start. I want you thinking about what you already know isn't serving you anymore. For a long time, I equated working hard with moving forward. If I was tired, I must be doing something right. If my schedule was full, it must mean that I'm being productive. And that's not always the case. This year, I had to get honest with myself about kind of the difference between effort and effectiveness. And there were a few things that I was putting a lot of energy into that simply weren't producing like meaningful results for me. And a lot of it was just how I spent my time throughout the day. Obviously being a small business owner, it's easy to think about like the millions of things that I can get done. What I realized was the only things that really matter overall was what we actually are just like doing for our clients and helping how we help them transition to being a normal person in a way that they can actually enjoy their life and something that they can stick to. And everything else on the side of that, like business wise, didn't matter. We can spend all kinds of time on like spreadsheets and making sure like all of these right processes in place and like automations make our coaches' lives super easy. But what it boils down to is like the relationships that we have with the people that we actually work with and caring for them. And then recognizing like when those things are taken care of, like when our team is happy and the people that we work with on a daily basis are happy, then that's like my permission to be able to like check out from work and focus on time with my family. For those that know me, know that I have a 6-month-old daughter right now, and I want to spend as much time with her and my wife and my parents and my in-laws, like everyone that's around us, to be able to be present for that. But I've been programmed over and over and over again to think like, okay, I just need to work really hard all the time and that's going to benefit whatever I want to get out of it. But the reality is, rarely is it like just working hard is the answer. It's like working hard on the right things. And so I had to eliminate like distractions. I had to make sure that, when I was actually working during the day, I was spending time working. Like she's napping right now and I'm recording podcasts. I'm like, checking Slack. I'm like getting this stuff done. So when she's awake, if I have a few minutes, I can go say hello to her and like spend time with her and be present and like have coffee with like my mom who's helping watch her and all of those things, but not just like getting distracted by some of the small stuff. One of the easy things that I did was like I got like it's like a little brick thing, and it basically goes to our fridge and allows me to just like block certain apps. I have to go to the fridge like physically to the brick to unlock it. And so like Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, like all the things that I could be wasting time on during the day that don't serve me at all are completely blocked. And so when I'm at my desk, like I'm here to work and focus on what I need to accomplish. So that way, when I am spending time with my family, I can be truly present. The other thing is like obviously I'm a fitness coach. Like I kind of have to be fit for a living. Like I enjoy fitness. I enjoy working out, but it's one of those things that like when you become a dad, it's very easy to kind of get pushed to the side. And I was actually messaging with like another dad this morning. He messaged me, he was like, "Hey, like, how are you enjoying your fitness? Now that you're a dad." I'm like, actually, it's way better, but it's because I've systematically built it into my day where it's okay, before anyone else gets up, it's the first thing I take care of. And it's not even like a physical thing, but I go into the day with like confidence and like clarity and feeling really good about where I am for me personally. That allows me to fill all of those other buckets versus being distracted. And so when I realized all of those things that were distracting me, it cleared up a lot. But also, like being busy is easy, being effective is actually what's uncomfortable. Effectiveness forces you to ask better questions, it forces you to cut things that feel productive but aren't actually moving the needle. And once I saw that, continuing to operate the same way became a choice. I am a big believer that like once you are aware of something that needs to change is the moment you actually change it. You don't wait for when it's convenient or when it's easy or take 6 months to think about it. Like if you know something needs to change and you're aware of it, every day you are not making that change is a moment that you are not getting the most out of it. And so with that, like cutting out anything that is not part of my priorities is just making every day way better, more clear, more important, like more efficient. And if you've listened to me or you've seen anything I've ever posted, you know that like your priorities are not what you say they are, they're what you actually do. And so making sure that your daily actions, the way you spend your money and your time and all of your effort, like should reflect your priorities. Next, and this was a really big one for me, is I stopped entertaining excuses like once I was aware of it. There's a difference between not knowing something and knowing it but avoiding it. Ignorance like will buy you time, meaning like you're not actually spending time, doing the right thing because you don't know it exists, but awareness removes that excuse. So once I become aware of a pattern, whether it's like a habit, the decisions or my standards, I couldn't unsee them. And this is actually a moment for me about a month ago. I've always been like the hardest worker in the room. I've always been the person where it's like, I'm going to get the most accomplished. I'm going to have the clearest vision. I'm going to have the clearest purpose. But my wife looked at me one day and it was like something dumb that I did. I can't remember what it was. And she looked at me, she's like, you always have excuses. I was like really frustrated at first. I was like, okay, like, no, I'm the hardest worker around. There's no way I don't, like, there's no way I have excuses. And I realized I'm like, I'm making an excuse right now for the fact that she said I was making excuses versus like being aware of it and like, okay, this is something you're going to work on. And so instead, anytime I do something that maybe like isn't right or whatever, it's like, oh, well, like I don't need to waste time on why things are the way they are. I just need to like correct the action or do things better and spending more time doing that. So as soon as she said that, it was a really big, clear moment for me because I am a business owner. I'm responsible for all of the clients that we help on a daily basis. I'm responsible for my family. I'm responsible for being a father, husband, son, responsible for my faith, like all of these things. And I can't make any excuse for that. Like I am the one that chooses the decisions I make on a daily basis and how they impact everyone. And so that can be like very uncomfortable being aware of those responsibilities, but it also can bring clarity on the fact that like you don't need a new year, you don't need like a new Monday. You don't need a perfect plan. Like once you are aware of something, the clock starts, and that means it's time to actually focus on it now. So this year, I stopped pretending that like there was a time or circumstance where like the problem can actually be addressed and recognizing that when you become aware of the problem is exactly what and when needs to actually be changed. So next, I stopped letting like low value decisions drain my mental energy. And this might be the most like underrated shift that I made because mental energy is finite. We work with a ton of teachers, we work with a ton of therapists, physical therapists, doctors, like all these people were like their critical thinking, their energy throughout the day all goes towards like caring for other people and they get off of work for the day and they're like toast for their families. And the thing that made me think about, and the same thing that I had to think about after like pouring into our clients and pouring into our team and pouring into people that like want to know more about what we do. I get off the day, I would wrap up the day and I would just be exhausted. And no matter how many times I did it, I would be exhausted in the day. And it made it very clear that like mental energy is finite and like most people spend it on things that don't actually matter, like constant reacting, overthinking small decisions, engaging in conversations that lead nowhere, consuming information without intent, aka like social media. All of that adds up on a daily basis. Like we spend time scrolling and like using our mental energy to process like how someone made a pizza or the outfit that they picked or watching them get ready in the morning versus taking that same energy and thinking like I'm going to preserve that for the time that I spend with my family, or I'm going to preserve that for the time that I can actually like care for others or do my responsibilities. Like that stuff actually really does add up and make a big difference. So I realized that the discipline we have every day isn't just like what you do. It's also about what you refuse to give your attention to and recognizing that your mental bandwidth is incredibly important. So once I started protecting my mental bandwidth, everything else became easier. Training, work, decision making, consistency, being present for my family and enjoying moments and actually like being able to embrace it. Not because life got simpler, but because I stopped overcomplicating it. And that change, I think, is something that like I probably spend less time on social media than most people. And I felt that change drastically. So if I felt it, The people that spend 4, 6, 8 hours a day just like scrolling through Instagram, like go look at your screen time and see what you're actually doing on a daily basis and think about like that's what your priority actually is. Your priority is scrolling through Instagram and looking at videos and memes. And if you don't like that, it's okay. Like, I mean, I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but the other aspect of it is like if you're not aware of it, you can't fix it. And so if you are aware of that and you see that for you, maybe you need a break. Maybe you need to just like delete those apps from your phone. Maybe you don't need them to be a part of your life, but you can't just know the problem and do nothing about it. Next, I stopped waiting to feel ready for things. For a long time, I told myself I needed more like clarity before taking action. I went out to Las Vegas and did Alex Hormozy and Layla Hormozy's scaling workshop, thinking like I just need like, more clarity around like the right stuff to do to make sure I'm doing the right stuff and all of this. And the vast majority of the things they told me was like, just do the things that I know I need to do. Cause like I'm talking through it and they're like, okay, so like what you need to do. You're just not actually spending the time doing it. And they did a great job like identifying the bottlenecks, being clear about like my business specifically. Like the value there is incredible. But also part of it was a reflection point for me to think like I already have clarity around it. I was just kind of scared to do the things that I needed to do. Like most people are waiting for more information. They're waiting for more confidence, more certainty to know that like the bet they're taking is 100%. But what I learned this year is that like readiness is usually just like fear dressed up as logic. And we think we have to have like all this information to make like the right decision. But in reality, is like the clarity of it almost always comes after the action takes place, not before it. Like you rarely in life are gonna know something's a sure bet. You do the best you can to like have the best informed decision, but at some point you have to jump in and like actually make a decision. I did this while I was in Vegas actually because I had like been hesitant about going to the workshop. It was $5,000. And finally, I made the decision to do it like after I waited like 6 months to do it. Well, the changes we made in the days after that workshop created drastic results for like our clients, for our business, for everything. And it was huge. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had done this 6 months ago. Well, I didn't have all the information 6 months ago. Well, if I would have decided then, like it would have been 6 months being in a better place. And then the same thing happened when I was there. They offered another program and I'm like, no, 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 I got to take everything from this and like learn first. And then I get home, my wife's like, why are you not doing that? Like, do you really like to wait for something? I'm like, okay, well, no, I really don't. So I'm doing that as well. And a big part of that process was me just recognizing that like you rarely are going to feel 100% committed to something when it's time to actually take action. But the important thing is taking action. There are very few decisions in life where you can't like roll them back somewhat. So if you can have the opportunity, like, okay, like, well, whatever, something didn't work out, you learn from it and you move on. But if you don't ever take an action, you're just going to spend time doing the same thing you've always done. So, like, I didn't need a better plan. I just needed to like commit to the plan I knew was right for me from day one. Once I stopped waiting to feel ready, my execution improved and like trusting myself to make decisions got way better pretty much overnight because the confidence isn't really built by spending time thinking and over evaluating. It's built by following through, not spending time deciding. And then what changed because of all of these things I did when I stopped doing these things, a few things were shifted pretty dramatically and I felt more consistent and less emotionally reactive. I made better decisions with less stress. I trusted myself more because I was actually honoring what I knew. And none of that came from like adding more pressure or more intensity or just like working more hours. It came from having clarity around the way I was making decisions, the things that were distracting me on a daily basis, and the things that are actually my priorities. And then knowing that I'm never going to have all the information, but the important thing is to take action versus sitting back and waiting for a clear shot. So rarely are you going to know every single little detail before it's time to actually make the decision. So like take action and you'll be closer than if you didn't take any action at all. So if you feel overwhelmed right now, there's a good chance like it's not because you need to do more. It's probably because you haven't decided what no longer deserves access to your attention or to your resources because those are things that like, are your priority, even if you may not think they are. The way you spend your time, effort, and money are your priorities. So I'll leave you with this. What are you tolerating that you already know you shouldn't be? What are you calling hard work that's really just noise and wasted effort? What do you need to stop? Not next year, not next month, but today, because that subtraction is going to ultimately allow you to be more clear on the direction you're heading and get the most out of every day. And that clarity changes everything.